All right, so section 2.3 is going to be a bunch of review, especially for what we did for the first week of school. It deals with all factoring, so hopefully by now you're getting pretty good at it. If not, you're going to have tons of practice today to get good at it. As always, you need to make sure if you have any questions to ask me for help, because otherwise it's kind of hard to help you out. So for factoring, by the way, we're on page 24 in the notes, if you have the note packet, page 24. All right, factoring. I broke it down step by step here, okay? So this is what we talked about that first week as well. So your first step is to always look for a GCF, okay? Always, always, always look for a GCF. After that, we're going to look at how many terms we have. If we just have 3 terms, we're going to try to reverse FOIL it. If we have more than 3 terms or less, then we're going to look for a pattern, possibly factor by grouping. We have to use our problem-solving skills to figure it out. Okay. So without further ado, let's look at example 1A. There's tons of factoring examples here. I'm only going to do a couple. You can do the rest on your own if you feel like you need more practice. So for 1A, I look at it. We don't have any GCFs going on. We do have 3 terms though, so I'm going to reverse FOIL that polynomial. So when we reverse FOIL, remember that the first term has to multiply to get us to be x squared, so it's going to be x and x. Boom, boom. And then for my second terms, I'm looking for something that multiplies to give me a positive 6, yet adds to give me positive 5. Those factors are going to end up being 3 and 2. Okay, so that's 1A factored to the fullest extent. You could always check your work by foiling it back out. When you go ahead and FOIL this, we're going to get x squared plus 2x plus 3x, so that gives me my 5x, and then plus 6 on the end. So we're good. That's the answer right there. For C, we look at C. I notice that we have an A out front. Okay, so it's not 1 anymore. We have a number out front greater than 1. Still, first step, look for a GCF. 3, 10, and 8 do not have a GCF at all. So we have to factor this. Since I have a number greater than 1 out front, I'm going to go ahead and create our x. Remember for the x, it's a times c, so negative 24. And then down below goes our middle term, our b term, so minus 10. At this point, we're looking for what multiplies to give me negative 24, yet adds to give me a negative 10. And it's going to be negative 12 and positive 2 for my factors. Okay. From there, we go ahead and group them. So I rewrite. We have our 3x squared out front. Going from left to right, I have minus 12x plus 2x. And then our c term goes on the end. Minus 8 goes on the end. Okay. Now that we have all 4 terms listed out, we go ahead and group the first 2 together. Group the second 2 together. And then we're trying to take out GCF. So 3x squared and 12x are going to have 3x in common. I'll be left with x minus 4. 2x and 8 have a 2 in common. So I'm going to pull out a positive 2, left with x minus 4. We know we did this right because I have parentheses that match up. Okay, that's the whole goal, is to get your first parenthesis, second parenthesis to match up. So when I go ahead and rewrite that, I'm going to have x minus 4. When I take care of those, I'm just left with 3x plus 2. And that would be my final answer. Remember, for these parentheses, you can flip the order. Okay, so you could have the 3x plus 2 out front, x minus 4 second, or you could just write it how I had it. And then as always, you could check your work by foiling it back out. So we got 3x squared, 2x minus 12x. It works out. We're good. Okay. Going to page 25. If you look at page 25, the top 2 are duplicates. You can go ahead and cross those off. And then I'm not going to do any on this page. You can work through them if you want to, but it's not required. Okay. It's kind of like practice for yourself. Okay. So if you're someone that struggles, you should probably be doing these, and then ask for help. Okay. I'll help you out on them. Going to page 26. There's 2 on this page I want to look at. I want to look at number 6 and number 7. So when we look at number 6, we got 2x squared minus 4x minus 30. Remember, your first step is always GCF. So when I look at this, 2, 4, and 30 are all even, so I know I can divide a 2 out. When I do that, I'm going to be left with x squared minus 2x minus 15. Okay? From here, I need to factor this trinomial further down. Okay? Since there's 3 terms, we can reverse FOIL it. So 2 sets of parentheses. X and x give me x squared. Now I'm thinking, what multiplies give me negative 15, but adds to give me a negative 2? It would be minus 5 plus 3. Okay, so negative 5 times positive 3 gives me negative 15. Negative 5 plus 3 gets me to the negative 2. And then we got to drop a 2 down out front. So there we go. Okay, for number 7, you start off GCF. We don't have a GCF. Okay. Step 2, we have 3 terms. Okay, so when we have 3 terms, we try to reverse FOIL. That looks like a mess reverse FOILing. I wouldn't make an X for this either because the numbers are going to get huge. But what I do notice is that we have 25 and we have 36. When you have perfect squares out front and at the end, my first step is going to be to square root them. Okay, so the square root of 25, b squared, is going to give me 5b. Square root of 36 is going to give me 6. Okay, so they are perfect squares. If you notice on the front, we had a pattern here. Okay, when you have perfect square trinomials, we're able to fit it into this pattern over here. Okay, so when I look at this, we have, the problem we're doing, a squared minus 2ab. Okay, so a squared minus 2ab. I can go ahead and throw in this form right here. Okay, so a minus b, a minus b. So we found a to be 5b minus 6. And then I'm going to go ahead and write it again. So ab written like that. Okay. Since the same factor shows up twice, we can go ahead and rewrite this as 5b minus 6 squared. And that would be number 7 factored to the fullest extent. Okay. So for this, like I said, all those factoring problems on those first 3 pages, you can do on your own. Okay. If you need extra help, let me know. Help you out. I want to jump to, though, let's actually go to page, we're going to skip a bunch of these. Let's go to page 31. Okay. We look at page 31, and this is probably like the most important part of the lesson. What we're going to talk about is solving. Okay, and we kind of did this a little bit the first week. You're going to be asked to solve or find the zeros for these functions. Okay, so when I look at example 3, I have x squared plus x equals 42. I know when we have an equal sign, we need to solve. Okay, so remember, when we solve, we need to rewrite the equation so it's equal to 0. So I need to move that 42 over. Doing that, I'm going to be left with x squared plus x minus 42 equals 0. Step 2 is to factor. So we have 3 terms. We're going to reverse FOIL it. I'm going to have x and x. And then now we have to think, okay, what multiplies to give me negative 42 but adds to give me 1? It's going to be positive 7, negative 6. Okay, and that's still equal to 0. Okay, so we did step 1, we did step 2 factoring. Now the last step is to set each factor equal to 0. So break it. And that should be x minus 6. And then solve. So we're going to get x equals negative 7, x equals 6. Done. And then you should get in the habit of checking your work by plugging back in. Because as the semester moves along, we're going to run into some issues. But for today, we'll be fine. Okay, so I plug in negative 7, plug in 6, works out. B, go through the same process. So set equal to 0. I want my x squared to be positive, so I'm going to make sure everything's on the left-hand side. Okay, so I moved everything to the left. It's equal to 0. Now we can factor. So when I make my x, okay, and I'm going to make my x because my a term is 2. We can go ahead and figure this out. So 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Middle term is 9. Okay, so I'm looking at what multiplies to give me negative 10, but adds to give me a positive 9. So it's going to be 10 and 1. And then the 1 has to be negative. Okay, so 10 times negative 1 is negative 10. 10 plus negative 1 is a positive 9. Okay, so we did the x right. From here, list it all out. So I have my first term is 2x squared. We go plus 10x minus 1x plus 5. We group it. So when we're grouping, we can take a 2x out front. That leaves me with x plus 5. And then in the parentheses, remember, our goal is to get it so that these two parentheses match up. So I need an x plus 5, x plus 5. So when we do that, we're going to have, sorry, this should be minus 1 right here. This should be minus 1. Minus 5, okay? So when we do that, to get them to match up, I need to factor out a negative 1. Okay? So when I factor out a negative 1, that's going to turn into x plus 5, and we're good to go. Okay? You write down what they had in common, so they had the x plus 5 in common. It leaves me with 2x minus 1. Set it equal to 0. And when we go ahead and break these and solve, we're going to get a solution of x equals negative 5. And we're going to get a solution of x equals 1/2. Okay? So right here, that always should have been a minus 5 in the parentheses. Reason being, it was minus 5 on the end when we had it set equal to 0. So that's a small mistake on my part. Go ahead and do the try-its, and then we'll check those when we go live in class. All right, last thing I want to talk about is a story problem. So like I said the other day, physics pops into quadratics a lot. So we have a golf ball here. Okay, so we're talking about the motion of the golf ball. This question is a little different though. Instead of asking what the highest point was, they're asking us when does the ball hit the ground. Okay, so if the ball hits the ground, our height obviously equals 0. Okay, so the function they gave us represents height. So what I need to do is plug in 0 for h. So we're going to end up with 0 equals negative 16 t squared plus 32t plus 48. Okay? Now we need to figure out what t equals. Well, 0 equals a quadratic, so we're going to do the same stuff we've been doing. We need to factor. So first step, GCF. We have a negative 16. When I factor that negative 16 out as a GCF, I'm going to be left with positive t squared minus 2t, and then the minus 3 on the end. Okay, so negative 16 minus 2t minus 3. From there, we go ahead and factor this down. Since it's 3 terms, we reverse FOIL it. So it would be t and t. Then we need to figure out what multiplies to give me negative 3, but adds to give me negative 2. Be minus 3, positive 1. Then we still have the negative 16 out front. Okay, we have it factored. From there, we set each of them equal to 0. So I have negative 16 equals 0, t minus 3 equals 0, t plus 1 equals 0. All right, go ahead and solve them. This first one makes no sense, so we just ignore it. Second one, we get t equals 3 seconds. Last one, we get t equals negative 1 seconds. So at this point, okay, you need to ask yourself, which of these answers make sense? You want to know, when did the ball hit the ground? Okay, so I have 3 seconds, I have negative 1 seconds. You figure out, okay, we can't go back in time. Okay, it'd probably be nice if we could, but we can't go back in time. So a negative 1 second is no good. The only answer that makes sense for this one is t equals 3 seconds. So that would be the time at which the ball hits the ground. I need you to do the try it at the bottom on your own. And as always, we will go over that in the live lesson. If you have any questions at all on any of this, please send me an email and we can figure out a time to meet that works for you.